So are we doing the intro now?
I don't know how to do the intro.
Okay, so I am Jordan. That's as much I- like. Okay, no. Let's reset.
Cut.
Yeah, let's yeah.
Edit.
I just realized.
I'm keeping all this. I'm not
Apparently,
editing
I'm
it.
bad at introducing myself. Okay, so I am just a humble blue collar worker. I've been working in construction for a while. Um. Hmm. Okay, so I made fun of you for
I am
so long.
Vitali. I was born in Borat land from Kazakhstan.
Oh yeah. I was born in New Brunswick, middle of nowhere, and
Say the town, because maybe some people are like,
yeah, we have my all 500,
well,
all
like it's
500 people in the
close to
village.
it.
Tracy, just outside of Fredericton, the capital.
Fredericton will always be at my heart because that's where I slept in behind the McDonald's or Burger King, I think.
Oh yeah. So
Crossing,
yeah, this is what I mean. Like
crossing Canada.
people were saying like, who are you? Like you need an introduction to talk about who you are. Like get people invested. Like that right there. That's a little. Well, why was he sleeping behind a Tim Hort or a McDonald's? I was like
I think it was Burger King.
Burger King.
Yeah.
Because maybe you did a cross country trip on a bike. Like that's people are like,
Or
oh, I
maybe I
want to
was
hear about
just
that.
homeless.
Yeah, that too.
No, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so like we can get like there's so many stories. Like a lot of them I cover in my ruck marches. Like if you want to know who I am, said some people were saying we need an introduction and introduce who we are. I do ruck march videos on YouTube at Off Grid Your Life, where I'm documenting my my journey getting off grid and off gridding my mind and changing my body and everything. Um, this podcast for us is more like documenting our journey for creating not just creating off grid communities, but creating jobs and opportunities for people and people like us that were just sick and tired of our like boring jobs and we both like to work, but we didn't like the work we were doing. And so we want to create opportunities for people like that, like driven people that are good workers and want to work, but they want to put that work into something important to them and for their families, not just collecting a paycheck, but like creating stuff for them, their children, and their children's children, like kind of like what we're supposed to be doing, but again, the big society has made it everything has changed, and
I also have to say that maybe there's a way to learn to love what you're doing. Like there's few steps because if you can't totally change your job right now, maybe find the things that are enjoyable and
yeah,
in that work and
and
try to do that more
that's
until you can find a different job and
way of off gridding your mind, kind of
yeah,
changing
yeah.
your mindset. That's what off gridding your mind is to us. It's like it's changing your mindset.
Because even the work that you're talking about that we did before, uh, where we worked together, like there were moments where we've learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like take into the consideration like the bosses and everything, which we had a great boss.
Yeah.
We had a great boss, and but like the higher ups, if you stop like complaining about other things within the company, if you just focus a little bit on your work, like there are a lot of like things and lessons and the people, other contractors that we've learned from, talked to. There's a lot of good things in that job.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if it doesn't like really, you don't feel that joy, and especially after many years at that place, you have to find something else.
Yeah. Well,
it's almost like a responsibility, a personal responsibility to not stay too long.
Yeah, like that's kind of a thought I had near the end too. Is like I don't want to stay at a company that makes me compromise my values and stuff. Like I was doing things that I wasn't okay with.
Right. Sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
But then don't get too lazy or too.
Yeah. Like it did get hard. It did get very hard to stay motivated, especially when like things just kept changing and then they let us know like, hey, we're dropping you guys in a couple weeks. Like that was really hard. I'm like, oh, I gotta keep working, but I really like, what's the point?
Our life now though is amazing.
Yeah.
If we don't think of money.
Yeah.
Spending time with family, working on this podcast,
working on my ruck march videos and my fitness, like having fun with that.
That ruck march, I was driving here and was thinking like we need to sort of advertise them in a way to like get a group of guys like we did the marching, hiking up the mountain.
Yeah.
But just we can do it anywhere here.
Well, yeah, like
Get a group of guys and just do long marches
I
with weighted vests.
I mention it a lot. Like I'm finding like right now I'm kind of repeating myself because I want people to get it though. Like I'm doing these videos like yeah for myself, but like that one person that or oh, I'm supposed to be doing push-ups. Whoops. That one person that maybe I can get through to them. Like hey, like it may not even have to. It doesn't even have to be fitness. If there's something that they know they should be doing or want to be doing, like let's go, let's do it. And that's why like I don't mind. Like at first I was like I don't really advertise this. I don't want to like I'll upload them for accountability, but I don't want to like make a big deal of it. But now I'm like no, because like if I can get it out there to more people, there might be that one person that just needs that.
Yeah, well, advertising the group rock marches doesn't take away from your own personal daily marches. Like it could be once a month or whenever we decide like there's a good date, let's just do that with other guys.
Yeah.
But coming back to the introductions, maybe I'll like sort of interview like, you a little bit and that'll take out some introduction from you.
That unexpected like because I thought it was gonna be easy and then like wait a minute, who am I?
Well, also we just checked the mics and apparently they work. So maybe like it works out perfectly that with a good audio that we'll post on Spotify, and the introductions will actually be heard because
So once
we'll have good audio.
we get a good introduction, we'll cut it too, and we can just
Yeah, and we can post it, and then I can try to clip that into like a 10-15 second introduction to every podcast with some music, metal, screamo. Oh,
yeah, that'll get a lot of people interested.
or not.
Yeah.
Oh man. But every time I move slightly, my neck is like someone's sitting there and stabbing me in with a knife.
It was just
It
from
hurts.
wrestling.
I don't know what it is. It's just I moved.
Roughhousing with the kids.
Okay, so you come from a small town, Tracy, New Brunswick. When did you move to Ontario?
When I was 13.
13. That's when I don't know how much we can talk about. Like your parents got divorced.
Well,
and that's
I'm
when you
getting
moved?
pretty I'm getting pretty open. Like I've just
Okay.
I prayed on camera today.
Yeah.
That was a big deal for me. That was a big step. So I'm getting more open, more
I
comfortable.
think you'll be surprised how many people don't mind it as much as you did about praying on camera.
Well, no, like I remember when I had lunch or dinner at your house, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, do you want to say grace?" I'm like, "I don't pray out loud."
Oh yeah. No, I get it. I've always been put on the spot when like a group like that, like the toast. I could never
Yeah.
say a toast. Like
Yeah,
to me, it's just let's eat food. Let's all be happy.
yeah.
Let's chat.
Oh man, I
like-
got my brother's wedding coming up this summer, and I'm probably gonna have to do a speech. And when I say probably, definitely, he killed it with my wedding. Okay, so yes, I moved to Ontario when I was 13. My parents got divorced. Actually, my dad moved here with us, and shortly after they got divorced, and then he moved back to New Brunswick.
So you're like that kid who switched high schools every year.
I went to like 4 different high schools, and
Yeah.
like saying I went to them is kind of funny too, because I barely ever went to high school.
Did you graduated, right though?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's funny actually. Just recently I found my transcripts or whatever, and it really highlights like how much the first 3 years of high school do not matter at all. It's insane. I was looking like there was one class where I got an 8. Like
An
an 8.
8% or what?
8%. Like I don't know. I had the numbers. They didn't have the percentage. I was like 8.
Um,
And my wife was like, "How do you get an 8?" I'm like, "I didn't. I don't think. I think I went to one class."
I think my lowest number was 15, and that's also like when I didn't go to class.
Yeah. But then it's funny because with my transcript or whatever, I had a sheet that says graduated with honors, an 80% average. Because grade 12,
How?
I don't understand. I don't know. I was looking, I was like, okay, so
The
grade
standards are pretty low. I
they
guess,
were
in
insane.
Canada.
Yeah, and crazy low. And I was looking at some of the courses and classes where I got like 80 or above.
And that was a school in Hamilton?
Yeah. I don't want to crap on it too much, but but I was looking at it and I'm like all the classes I got like 8, like nothing below 80 in grade 12. But I'm like, how? Like I didn't.
Did you show up for tests?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
So I would.
and you did pretty well on tests, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
I would
the
go
only-
home. I would get some assignments, and then go home and not show up for like a week or two. And then I would get like somebody to text me when a test was or something, and I'd show up for the test, then I'd go home. I probably spent more time playing Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and 4 in my senior year than going to class, but I got average 8. And that's why I'm like, this whole system's broken.
Well, also let's say that we're not like proud that that's what we did necessarily.
No,
or, like,
I'm highlighting how broken this system is. Like, I'm not like, yeah, I'm a super smart kid. I didn't go to class. Like, I didn't know anything.
yeah,
Like,
because education is important, but for us, the way we talked about it, like we didn't like it at all.
yeah,
It wasn't a joyous process. And although I had friends who really liked that atmosphere, they come in, they study something, write the lecture down, do the test, they enjoy that process. But I think for most kids, they didn't enjoy it. Like,
no,
who liked school? My parents, I remember my dad saying, like, but that's because he comes from different education, different school. He said, like, just remember these years, they're going to be the greatest years of your life. You have, like, no responsibilities. And, like, now I look back at it, I still hate it.
yeah,
I don't think those were like my best years. What I wanted to do, and I think I felt bad that I probably wanted to finish school because of my parents, but I just needed to go and work. I think I would have learned a
Yeah.
whole lot. I worked just summers,
well, that's
Canadian Tire or like whatever factories, and I learned way more in those places than school.
that's what I was saying. Like, I left school and I didn't know anything. I like grace of God, luck, whatever you call it. I got hired at a daycare right out of high school because of co-op I did, and it was
Oh,
all
the high school co-op.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Nice.
and because it was all like I'm not all older women, but women older than me, and they were working at daycare. They all had like this maternal instinct or something. It's like, oh, this poor lost kid doesn't know what he's doing. Like they helped me.
Nice.
They helped me do a proper resume. They taught me like proper stuff that I didn't learn in school. Mostly my like because I didn't go, but also like I think the class. I'll give you an example. Like the one class I went to is like that I got an 8 in. It was a media studies class, and we just watched movies. I know media, but we were supposed to discuss. Like I looked at like what the class is supposed to be, and it wasn't that at all. We were supposed to discuss like movie making and marketing and stuff, all this other stuff, and it was just watch movies.
I got super lucky with my media class, and I enjoyed that stuff because we had a guy who was pretty famous. I forgot his name. Who's famous in Toronto radio, and he came to high school to teach that whole semester. So he shared a bunch of stories of how they work in the radio. So it was very practical. Loved that class. He didn't care about tests or anything. He said like, work on a project, go film, go record something, come back, show it to the class, and you'll get a good mark. Just go and do. That was the best. There's like really cool teachers like that.
So
I think it was Punch Andrews. I don't know if you know,
no.
but he was like pretty popular in.
So I
Right.
got one more thing to say about high school, and then I'll ask you a question for your interview. I had so going to several different high schools in different provinces. I got to like different life, like very majorly different life experiences there. Because I went to one high school in Fredericton where I had a reputation, like everybody knew me, and then I went to a high school here where nobody knew me, and I just wandered the halls by myself. And it was weird. It was really weird. Like two major extremes. Like one, everywhere I went, somebody knew me, and then another one, I was just sitting in the halls reading like comic books. Like this is weird.
But you made me remember because when I finished elementary school, everybody else moved to the same high school, but my parents moved, like they bought a house a little bit further away, so I had to go to a different high school. So all my friends from elementary went to one high school, I went to another high school, and I had like very hard time making friends, and I was very upset. I remember coming home
That
and
sucks.
like not crying, but like just super upset, telling my mom like I can't make friends. I don't know why. Like it's just I don't know. Like as a kid, you don't know. But now I look back into it, I was like, that ton of time spending alone, I think was good.
Yeah.
I learned how to think for myself.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any regrets in my decisions or how it went now. Then but I was upset as a kid.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So like for parenting, now you have kids, I have kids. Like when our kids get upset about something, We just have to give them some time, and then they'll realize, instead of like constantly lecturing them on things, like just give time. Time is like the best medicine.
Well, yeah, no, I agree though, because at the time I felt so isolated and alone. Like I was sitting under a tree reading comic books and sketching in my sketchbook, and I just went from a place where, like, say, the one high school I wasn't going to class because I was hanging out with friends, and the other one I wasn't going to class because I didn't know anybody. I felt weird and isolated, and so I would just sit under my tree and read my comic books. Um, but yeah, like I used to, like I felt so bad at the time, but now I'm like, it was good for me. Like
Yeah,
to your point, it was the first time I actually probably experienced like meditate, like real meditation.
that's exactly
And
what I'm thinking right now. Like I remember those lunches, the class ended, and I would go sit under a tree, have my own lunch because I didn't want to be in the cafeteria like with no friends. Just
yeah,
everyone had like a clique, and for some reason I wasn't able to like be the first one to go and talk to people.
yeah,
So I would sit there, and it wasn't kind of a meditative experience. I would watch people. It's like an out of body kind of experience where like, you're just watching life happen, and you come up with thoughts, ideas of what things are. And I think more people, teenagers, need to experience that kind of state instead of just constantly following. When they talk about like peer pressure, like if you have a moment to like come out of that and spend time by yourself as a teen, I think that's very beneficial.
so we
Did we do
discussed.
some introduction?
We did. We discussed where I come from, like my background. So let's talk about yours, because one of my all-time favorite stories with you and me at work is when we were getting to know each other, and I was like, "Oh, did you ever read Batman or any comic books?" And you just look at me like, "No, Jordan. I grew up in the Soviet Union. We didn't have Batman."
Well, well, yeah, maybe in Israel, yes, because I was born in Kazakhstan and then we moved to Israel when I was 5 or 6. So kids in Israel probably had access to Batman. But
Yeah.
my first 5, 6 years, no. Like, I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
see that.
it was just funny though, just the way you look at me. You're like, "No."
It was like half a joke because also at the same time, I was born in '89, so the Soviet Union collapsed a couple of years later. So there was a lot of access, but I was too young to like get into those things. But like my brother and older kids, they probably started having more access to films, movies, Batman. But I was just too young to get into that
Yeah.
at that time. But in Israel, I don't. But I don't know. I don't think I was ever that much into superhero comic book thing, except Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. He's my superhero.
Yeah. No, I was really into comics and until I got married, pretty much.
You're still into comics. You bought like 4 thick books on, like the complete edition of, was it Batman?
It was
or
Batman Nightfall.
Yeah, like
I'm not still like okay, so I'll give you an example.
you got married 8 years ago.
I went from going to the comic book store an hour before it opened, the day that all the new stuff was coming out, and I'd just sit there waiting. And now I'm like, okay, I didn't finish Nightfall. I got like halfway through. I might as well pick it up. I can get it for cheap, so I'll pick it up and finish it. Like it's very different.
I guess.
And like back then, it was like I wouldn't leave my house or I wouldn't want to do anything because I just wanted to sit and read comics or play video games. And now it's like I want to go out and do stuff. I read, like, I still haven't finished Nightfall because I really haven't had time.
Do you want to talk about your emo phase?
No, not that open yet. No.
The long black hair. I can talk about it.
Yeah.
If you're not ready. I had a Russian mafia phase. Did I
Yeah.
tell you about that?
Yeah.
There was a show, Brigada. I don't know if any Russians are listening to this, but they were like wearing full leather. It was a show about the 90s in Russia.
Yeah.
How people like got into clans and they were like, it's not mafia. People just, it's corrupt people who wanted to take over factories and all that stuff, and they were willing to kill other people to gain access,
To get on top, kind of.
to get on top of the buildings and factories and facilities that the Russia, Soviet Union kind of gave away to nobody. It's those kind of groups, and they started businesses and oligarchs. Is this too hot?
No.
Oh Lord.
I'm getting a lot of heat on my face. It's funny because episode
From
one
what?
we nearly froze. Yeah, I don't know if I just feel a lot of heat on my face.
Maybe it's this. This is very hot here.
Yeah, it's funny. Like episode 1, freezing. This one, like my face is on fire.
So, anyways, my phase was that wearing fully leather, short haircut Russian mafia phase
Mhm.
for about a few months, and then I realized in pictures how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
For
At
a
least yours was a few months. Mine was like 4 years.
4 years, I didn't know. That's a pretty big phase.
Yeah.
I'm bummed that you said you guys don't have pictures of you.
Like I have some. I found one. My one friend that I keep like I probably mention him every episode, John. I found a photo of him and me and my brother, and we're sitting on the couch playing. He's playing like Metal Gear or something, and he's got long hair down his face with like a blue strip in it.
Ooh,
I got
wow.
my
A
yeah,
blue strip.
yeah,
Wow.
I got
It's
my
extra.
my long hair down to my shoulders. My brother's got his jet black hair all over his face, like they all came down straight. It's
Nice.
funny. I'm like, oh man. But yeah, it was like 4 years.
4 years is a very long kind of time to be in
Yeah.
a phase.
And I got
Was that throughout all high school?
pretty much, yeah. Probably like yeah, my senior year I kind of got out of it. A lot of things like when I got into the daycare is when I started to really like grow and change like from a lot of things. But like
So after high school, you just straight went into working at the daycare for like 5 years.
Yeah.
You didn't go to college.
No.
Did you try to go to college?
I was thinking about becoming a teacher actually.
Okay. Because
So,
of that job.
because of that, I was thinking of becoming a child and youth worker or a teacher, and I was starting to look into college courses and stuff for that. And then I found out like I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with. There's some bad experiences with parents, really crappy parents, and then so this is gonna lead into something else. Almost my entire life, I wanted to join the military. And I was like, what am I doing here? I'm supposed to be in the military. I kind of like forgot about it for a while because I got right into work. I was making good money. I was surrounded by women. I was like, so I just got distracted and then shortly near the end of it, I was like, I want to go back to my military path that I wanted to take. I'm gonna not talk about this too much because I'm saving it for a Ruck March video. Um, but yeah, like that's something I wanted to do since I was a little boy. Like I was like, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL, and then I found out that like not only is that American, but Canada has like the JTF2. So I was like, okay, that's my goal. I'm gonna be like an operator. I'm gonna be badass. And it was also so. I want this to get into something else. It's gonna lead to a question I'm gonna ask you. Um, Part of that was like the typical masculine like boy stuff. Like yeah, I wanna be a hero. I wanna blow stuff up and save the good guys and get rid of the bad guys kind of thing. Because that is always also something that's always been something I wanted to do, like helping people. And so that was probably like I'm thinking like earliest memories, helping people. So because this is what we're trying to do with this, when was it for you like found out like hey like I have a heart for people, I want to help people?
I think the biggest influence is just my dad's approach to life.
Mm-hmm.
How, and my parents, my mom too, how like maybe my entire family. I don't know. It just like I think from growing up how selfless they seem to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if anything came up with other people, they would always be there to help.
Yeah.
And like my family, grandparents, I think it's just from them. I don't think it comes from like me in general. It's
Yeah.
just like what I grew up in.
So kind of like me, you can't even think of like a time where it started. It was just always something.
No, yeah,
was
I
there.
just always saw my
Yeah.
parents give to people.
Yeah,
So I remember clearly being in high school or like elementary school, remembering, oh, if I had this business, I would like just do this, this, this. Like
Yeah.
it like, if I had, because my dad also started businesses in Kazakhstan. Like I just always, and maybe it's how they treated us too. That they're all. I never felt like I didn't have anything, although they immigrated like twice and had nothing, zero. But I always felt like I have everything. So maybe that like sense of love from them made me realize, okay, like that's what you do. You just help out people. That's it. I think that's where it comes from me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the same thing for me. It's like there wasn't like a beginning. It was always something that was in me. I think for me it was more like so yeah family influence like especially my grandmother. She's kind of like how you were saying about your parents. Like she's known in her town. Like if you have a problem, you go to her, and she'll help you.
And my parents are not even, they're not social. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, they keep to themselves. They don't have a lot of friends. But if anything came up, they would always be there. Like if a distant family member had a problem, any problem, they would be the ones like, "Oh, how do we
Yeah,
help?" But
exactly.
in general, they would keep quiet, have their own life, solve their own problems. But if something came up, they would always be there.
So there's definitely that like nature in there. There is some things like or sorry, nurture, not nature. Um, I know one thing for me is that, and this isn't the fault of my parents or my grandparents or anything, but I spent a lot of my childhood feeling like again isolated and lonely, and that's why for me it's like whenever I see someone alone, I want to like help them, and it's also like what like with the daycare. I noticed that there was a lot of kids, and it's only getting worse, but there's a lot of kids without dads,
Mm.
and I was the only like male influence there, and I saw like a lot of like wanting and needing of that. So that also led into like, oh, I got to figure out this, and it's only got like I said, it's only gotten worse. You keep seeing like a lot of young men seem to be going to all these different extremes, like one extreme or the other, like the Andrew Tate following people and stuff like that. It's like, or they go from that extreme, or they go to another extreme, or they're just pumping themselves full of soy and and I don't mean soy as in like weak. I mean like they're filling themselves up with literal garbage,
Yeah, not
mentally,
food. Yeah,
mentally and
yeah.
physically.
You mentioned that in the today's rock march, where
Yeah,
I'm not saying soy boys, but like it's just bad food, and
yeah.
it happens to be soy that's bad for us.
It's one of them, and like I said, like maybe we'll do a whole episode of this, but I want people. I mentioned in my recommendation, I'm gonna mention it now. I want people to look into this, cottonseed oil.
I also realized today we've talked so much already, episode 1, 2, but it's only episode 3. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you compare it to like people's podcasts that they have hundreds of episodes,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked so much already, but it's only episode 3. Like
Yeah.
we have time to
Well, right now
really
we're
dive
working
deep
stuff out.
and
Yeah.
like yeah, and
I don't think
actually
we.
create a podcast that has more value.
Mm,
Like there's the people, there's the education. Like we'll end up doing that.
yeah, and I don't think we covered it well enough in episode one. We were talking about like so. We want to have like several episodes. Like some of the things we want to be dedicated to talking about is education,
Yeah.
health,
Yep.
physical and mental.
Yep. The building projects, changing your job, like all those really off-gridding your mind and your life.
Yeah.
I like how you named your thing off-grid your life, because it's like this is the podcast.
Yeah.
We brainstorm, we work on our mind to like share ideas, and then your channel is the off-grid your life. You're actually
Yeah.
showing you doing what we talked
Exactly.
about.
Well, that's exactly what I was
Yeah.
thinking about. It's like the off grid your life one. Like I want to like do videos with you when we go out shooting, hunting,
Yeah.
fishing, camping. I got my annual camping trip that I go on every year. Like that, I want that to grow. I want to invite. Like I already have a few people that come. Like
Bear Grylls, the show, Men versus Wild, or like where he brings like some famous person.
mm-hmm.
We should bring like on that channel. You should bring a friend, and like try to survive in the winter. Like
Yeah.
try not survive. Like do a winter camping night.
Yeah.
One
bring
night
bring somebody from the city, like from the
from the
city,
city. Oh,
that
yeah.
doesn't know anything. We just make sure
Yeah.
they don't die, but see
Yeah.
how well they do.
Yeah, and just experience to like what point can you get, and like let's bring vegans.
Oh man, that's almost cruel.
Like I mean like this is real life. You're in a forest. This is
But
where
like
we
there
come
is
from.
plenty of vegan options. It's just you're gonna feel really weak really fast.
Yeah, I mean there's a good way to do vegan where you're fully sustained.
And the other thing about vegan
It's not
too.
how most vegans do it.
See, most vegans, and like I'm not like I'm guaranteed there's vegans out there that do wilderness survival that know
Yeah, for
what
sure.
to eat and what. But like with meat, it's so easy.
Yeah,
There's no rat. There's like, oh, I can eat this rabbit, but not this one because this one will like make me bleed out my ears. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of like when I was learning foraging recently, like I remember it's like, oh, these could be wild grapes or they could kill me. They could be delicious or I could die in an hour.
but even all that vegan knowledge out in the forest, you just have to harvest all day, eat all day, to survive.
Yeah.
if you get an animal, that's a lot of food and
There's
calories and
yeah,
protein.
there's some time you have to build a shelter.
That's how the guy in the show Alone that I talked to you about, that's how he ended up being like there for over 80 days or something, because he got a huge animal. And it's in the winter, so it's easy to preserve. It's not in the summer where you have to watch out for worms, flies, like all those stuff.
Yeah.
Did we do this whole podcast should be focused on introduction. So let's like keep telling about stories. I also went to the military recruitment in Canada twice, in downtown Toronto and in Montreal. But every single time I went, I had this like voice in me saying like, you will not follow orders.
Yeah.
Like,
So
you will not be able. I like the physical challenge. I like where everybody's wearing a uniform to like work on a problem, but something in me said like, and my dad went to a mandatory military for 2 years, and my uncle, my grandparents. So like I almost felt like I need to go through that experience.
yeah.
But I always felt like I can't do stupid orders.
Yeah. So I'll elaborate more tomorrow on my Ruck March video with the military. But I have to say right now is that I'm like I gotta make sure that people know like I'm not a veteran. Some people already know like because like I with my legs and stuff like that. So I'm not a veteran. I can't even really call myself a soldier because I didn't even finish training. So I just gotta make sure people know that. But yeah, like I'm gonna go into detail tomorrow because it's a long story.
So we'll talk about it more military in the next episode.
Yeah,
Because I have a lot of like
because
ideas
it's
and-
very long because it goes into like I said it goes like right back to some of my earliest memories, and it covers things like some people might just shut off for this part, but it goes into like destiny and God's plan for people's lives and your plan and stuff like that. Like it's what I always wanted to do, but it's not who I am. It's not, and it wasn't God's plan for me, but it's also not who I am. To your thing about the orders, there's stuff about that with taking orders, and there was stuff about like hearing things that I understood, like they made sense, but I couldn't accept it. Like the thing, like if you're an individual, you're wrong. Like I had such a problem with that, but at the same time, I understand why and how a military needs to operate like that.
Let's keep this like I really like this topic. Let's keep it to like a whole episode
Yeah.
where like we'll go into everything military, not just our ideas and our experiences of like your experience and my experience of wanting to be in the military, but like we'll do like a deep
like,
dive on military.
Military life, like career and like military life, it takes a very special person physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I believe I'm like, yeah, sure, my legs gave out, but even if you ask my training staff, like I had, like my heart was there, and my physical body's getting better, but I don't have the soul for it. I'm different, like I'm more who I'm supposed to be. To say, like I know some. I know you get it as like the meditation guy, and
I get it, but I think there's like again, like I really want to keep it to a different episode, but I think there's military and then there's special ops, and those special ops go by very different rules than the majority of the military personnel.
Yeah, but to get to there, you have to.
I know you have to go through it. That's why I'm saying like. But I mean,
I know in a different life I would.
There's private militaries where you don't have to go through that kind of military. But
No,
again,
it's even just the like when I was younger, my whole thing was fighting for like defending the weak, right? Defending weaker people and stuff like that. And then my teen years, I kind of went away and got lost. Like I'll say I got lost. Like some people would say like, oh, like you fell from God. Other people like I just lost who I was. And like when I said I had a reputation, I got a huge reputation for being obsessed with fighting. And it wasn't to defend people or anything noble. It was just like, I just want to fight. I just want to hurt people. I'm hurting. I want to hurt people. And it's funny because now it's flipped. Again, like I found my way. And I'm like, okay, I'm helping myself and I want to help people. But there was a dark period. It's funny because this was like those 4 years when I was all emo and stuff. But yeah, I was going through some dark stuff and I lost my way. But coming back around and flipping it around.
it's almost like we need controlled losing ourselves. Like, because if you want to grow, you have to like lose yourself and then define yourself in a different way. Because otherwise, I don't know, maybe I don't think there's that many people who have like a very ideal perfect life, you know? it's almost like the whole intent by God or whatever it is, life, for you to go through a challenge, lose yourself, find yourself, and then live a certain amount of time, and then lose yourself again, and that's how we grow. Maybe that's what life is. Is it recording?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I want to share so much about the military. It was always like on my mind.
Yeah. So tomorrow, my ruck march, I'll go into some stuff with my, because it's gonna get pretty personal too, because there's stuff with my wife. Like my wife, when we were dating, she knew that I had my mind set on it, and one of the first things she said when we first started dating was, "I'll never be a military wife." So that was problem number one. Like, and then like my mom would let me join when I was younger. Like, you need parents' consent before 18, and my mom was like, "No, like when you're living with me, no, like you're not getting that from me." And I think my mom knew. Like my wife and mom, they both knew. Like, especially where I was at the time. Like when I say I lost my way, I wasn't gonna join because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna defend the weak, and like it's like I just want to shoot stuff. Like I just want to blow stuff up and shoot people in the face, like bad guys. Like,
What do you think is the percentage of people in the military that go for that reason?
so I have to, like, again, I have to be careful because like I'm not a veteran. I was only in for a year.
But just your perception, be get it that you're not
Like it's a very small percentage,
Smaller?
but it exists. There's some guys, but see, the military has a good way of squaring those guys away or getting rid of them. There's a lot of guys that go in there like that, and they'll either, like I said, they'll either get squared away and become a good soldier, or they'll get pushed out. Like the military doesn't really kick people out anymore unless you commit a crime. They've
because
like
they need people.
yeah.
Or what?
Well, like I think almost every NATO country is heavily under, and right now like they don't want that more than. But yeah, no, I won't. I'm not gonna use any names or anything, but obviously, but there was one guy. It was, I think, fourth or fifth time in training, um, and he was just, it was all about like getting. As soon as we were issued our C7, like the rifle, he disappeared, and he was just taking photos of with him,
Oh,
like
man.
yeah, like I was like, what, and just not like, so yeah, he did not have it physically, mentally, or spiritually what it takes to be a soldier. Like he was not a team player. um he was, it's like one thing to not be fit, but it's another thing to just not care and not try to push yourself. Like I wasn't fit when I joined, but I was really pushing. Like that was one thing that my training staff kept, like they're not really supposed to give you compliments, the training staff, during training, but when I had the issue with my legs and I was packing up all my stuff, they let me know. It's like, hey man, we saw like how much you were trying. But this guy, whenever the training staff would have their back turned, he would stop doing push-ups, or whenever they, like, he would just slow down and just, he didn't care. It was all about the guns and like, look at me, I'm a soldier. I'm like, no, you're not.
That's crazy how those people even want to be in those situations. Like, what influenced them to want to do that? Super strange.
Yeah.
But it also made me think how you kind of do air cadets, army cadets, mandatory in high school.
Mhm. Yeah, there's tons of things
This is the communist in me. Make this mandatory. Make them do this.
well, yeah, me being super against government forcing anything,
You're like,
I'm
no,
like,
Vitaly, that's
but
bullshit.
but at the same time, I recognize, like I said, like that was a huge leap forward for me, like with my whole journey and kind of getting back on track and finding who I was. Like it didn't work out, and it wasn't what I was supposed to do. It's not what, like, it wasn't God's plan for my life, or any my, like it just didn't work out. And but good did come out of it.
As much as we want to keep this military talk for another episode, we just love that, like, love talking about it.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be talking about us, so I'll finish this thought and then we'll hop onto something with you so that people can get to know you better. Um, but yeah, so good did come out of it. I met some good people. I got motivated. It's when I first started hearing about David Goggins and Jocko, and like their books and their stuff has really helped me too. And like I said, the training staff, they're not supposed to compliment you or to get compliments or anything, but I was leaving, so I did get a big confidence boost, even though I failed, or I don't know what you would call it, because it wasn't in my control. Um, I got a really awesome compliment from one of my training staff. He said that my weapons handling was amazing, And that was so cool. I was like, yes. I didn't want to tell him like, yeah, my previous training was video games. But he's like, you knew everything ins and out of that rifle. Like I went from the C7 to the C9 because eventually I wanted to be a C6 gunner. I wanted the big machine gun. But I had to go to the C9 first, but yeah, like I picked it up all right away, and because I've always had a big thing for guns. But anyway, it's more about you now. Let's talk about you.
Uh, where did we stop?
So you went from Kazakhstan to Israel to Canada.
Yes. Actually, we went when I was 6. We went to Israel, and then we lived there for a year, and then we went back to Kazakhstan.
Oh,
My
yeah.
parents started from scratch again. My dad started working with his friends, and that's the period like mid 90s when everything collapsed. People just were fighting for themselves. My dad, I remember, told me stories of how when Soviet Union collapsed, their factory, he was working on a mine, and the guys there like didn't have money from the government anymore because communism collapsed. So they, by way of like, I know a guy from a local factory, they do toothpaste.
Mhm.
They would grab boxes of toothpaste, give it to my dad and his other uh, people who worked with him, and they would go to a different town and try to sell the toothpaste for something else. So it was completely just bartering to survive. And then that's when we left to Israel. And then he got a call from his friends that things are picking up. They're like, all that craziness is settling. We can actually now become capitalist and start our own store. So we all went back, and my dad worked at that store. Like they built up like chains of stores, and then he's like, I'm too tired of this. Let's go back to Israel. So they kept moving and like finding a good place for us to live.
So
And then we went to Canada when I was 12.
you know what's crazy though?
What?
It really shows like how your parents are just built different. Like most
They are
people, like
100% built differently.
like to start from nothing so many times and work your way up. And there's so many people that they'll get a handout or they'll get a leg up and then they still fail. Like that's pretty cool.
They're built so different that like I always share stories about them to my friends and Emily. And then my dad right now, it got so like kind of comfortable at his work. He's like, how the frick did I do that stuff? How did I pick up my family of 2 kids and go to a different country, then come back? Like the amount of documents that he had to just buy to like travel, and like so many risk taking. He's like, I would never do that right now again.
So
It's crazy.
it's funny because I got a compliment for your father, even though I've never met him. Cause I've seen his like on people you may know on social media, and his face and his aura and everything's like, man, that guy's scary. He's like, don't mess with me. But the fact like knowing you, and that was your father, your influence, like obviously, like he's not a scary guy or anything. Like, but
No,
he
he's
did have
not
like
a scary guy at all because
he just seemed like very like I keep using this term, but a very squared away individual. Like
yeah, I actually thought about him being on this podcast and sharing stories of like how hard life was and like
I think people
for
would
that
really like
perspective,
that.
yeah.
I think that'd be
And
cool.
he would definitely enjoy talking about it. He like whenever we have like dinner conversations, he like goes on it and like starts screaming about stuff. He's gonna be a very good guest. He's gonna love it.
Is green light still on?
Oh, I
Okay,
I
mine's
can't
still
look
on.
down. I think it is. Yes.
Okay. That's like my biggest fear
What time
from
are we on? Do you see the time?
I can't. The lights like as soon as I do this, the light just blinds me.
Oh, that light, right?
Yeah. I don't have a problem with going too long as long like
Yeah, I'm fine too.
Um
Where do we stop? I went to Canada. What about you? Like,
I've never
England?
left Canada. I've never been to the States. I've never crossed the Canadian border.
We'll have to drive to Florida together at some point.
Yes, and go to Machine Gun America. Because my plumber friend told me about that, and as soon as he
Machine
told me,
Gun.
I can't get it out of my
America.
head. He's like, there's a shooting range called Machine Gun America. I was
And
like,
it's just a
I wanna see
regular
that.
like plaza location, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
There's
it's-
like grocery store, this store, that store, machine guns.
Yeah. Like part of me is like I don't belong here. Like I need to go to a state with like an open carry state or something.
Okay, so we talked about kind of our childhood. We're gonna get into that more and more, like other stories that will come up.
Oh yeah, like because I keep mentioning in my ruck marches and stuff like my like why I don't like talking to people. I'm antisocial, stuff like that, unless I get like comfortable with you and stuff like that. And
It's funny because I don't think of you as antisocial at all. Even from like day one when we met at work, just how your vibe is,
well,
how you
so
talk to people. Like I don't see
when I
that.
say that there's how like who I am and who I'm supposed to be. Like I was like that as a kid, and then some things happened, and I got came off. Like I've always like I don't know how many people are gonna accept this, but it doesn't matter. Like I was made a certain way by a living creator, and some things happened in my life that made me change. So like I started to hate who I was, and I recognized like things that came to me naturally. Like I just automatically loved people, automatically wanted to be friends with everybody, and I started to view that as weak. And I'm not crapping on my dad here. My dad and I have a great relationship now, but I didn't have a lot of guidance or anything like that with how a man should be. So I started like a lot of these young men that follow Andrew Tate and stuff like that. Like I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I started viewing all these things as masculine, good, these bad, not masculine, they're bad. So like being a soft, friendly person was weak, and I can't do that. And then there was things like I was being bullied and stuff like that, so it was reinforcing this. So I went from a very easygoing, social person to if you come near me, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like get away from me. I hate
Right, you
everybody.
start viewing that as being strong
Yeah,
as a
like
man.
I'm a big strong alpha male, and I'm like if you mess with me, I'll beat you up. And but like it wasn't in my nature at all. Like in my nature, I'm a very forgiving. Like I started viewing myself like, oh no, you're just a pushover.
Mm.
You're weak. You're a pushover. Look at all these people taking advantage of you. Because like what comes to me naturally when someone takes advantage of me and I recognize it, I just ignore it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
It's kind of, yeah, like when you mature, you realize that that's their bad, and you kind of
Yeah,
feel bad for them that they're taking advantage because that's not going to serve them in life at all.
and that's where I am now. Like now that I'm back on track and like who I'm supposed to be and stuff like that. Now it happens to me a lot. Like as a contractor, like with my own business, I know when people are trying to screw me, and like sometimes like you gotta be balanced. You gotta know
Yeah,
when to put your foot down. But there's other times where I'm just like, you know what? That's I feel sorry for this person.
yeah,
Um, but yeah,
I get that. Yeah,
like I'm like it's balancing now, right? Like I don't like I can recognize when I need to speak up and when I need to be quiet, like if I'm being a pushover, if I'm being too aggressive. There is some times like, okay, you're too aggressive, calm down. And there's other times like, hey man, you shouldn't have let them do that to you. Oh yeah, you didn't work with me at the time, but like the whole situation with, um, I don't know how much information. I don't want to give it too much information, but basically I had to run in with somebody at work because they came up to me and was like, move your truck. And I started balanced. I was like, no, like you want me to move my truck as nicely. And as he escalated, I started to escalate. That's where I started to lose track.
mm.
But at least I can recognize that now. Like if like year like at night when I was like 19, 20, I would have just like, you want to throw down? Let's go. You want me to move my truck? Make me. Let's go.
It's very interesting how the qualities that are kind of viewed as manly
Mhm.
are really not at all manly.
Yeah.
You know,
Like
like
self control is manly.
yeah, you like it's Jordan Peterson that. Remember how we talked that he kind of felt like he's a little bit off. I listened to his recent podcast with Joe Rogan, and he's like back. He's
Yeah.
back into his own like strong mental state, and even Joe Rogan said the same thing. And I really enjoyed that podcast, the
Mm.
recent one with Joe Rogan. Because the ideas he shared there, how he talked, he's really back into like the first time I noticed Jordan Peterson on YouTube. That's how he's right now. He's probably healed. He said he's 80% now. So like I really really felt happy listening to that podcast while driving. Like wow, Jordan Peterson is back. He's he's actually that person who I viewed him
Yeah.
like a few years back.
Well, yeah.
Because there was a period where like oh no, we're like
well, things were
what's
getting pretty
happening?
dark for him, and I
Yeah.
can only imagine like with all the hate he was dealing with and like the attacks on him and his family, like
Yeah.
that gets to a person.
But I think there was a high influence of the drugs that he took for either something. I don't know. I didn't read too much into it, but how they influenced his chemistry health, and I think now he's okay. They did talk about Sam Harris and how he's a little bit nuts right now.
Yeah, well, it was funny
I
'cause
hate
you and
gossiping though, but
yeah,
yeah,
but I'll say this one thing. We can change it back to something else. But it was just funny, like when we were both like what the heck happened to Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris? They both went
Yeah.
nuts.
yeah. Well, I didn't think Jordan Peterson went nuts. I think he just wasn't there.
Yeah, but saying
Sam Harris is a little.
yeah, I
bit,
was gonna, anyone who says I don't care if this politician has a basement full of dead kids, like, yeah, you've gone nuts.
You know what I feel from Sam Harris right now is that he feels like a little bit like to me the sense I get is he's like on top. His mind, his ideas are on top, and everybody else is below. Like
Yeah,
that's how it
that's-
feels. Like an
I
egoistic
hate
type
that
of
type
thing.
of thinking.
Yeah, and I don't know if it gets from, and Joe Rogan talked about it, and he's like #1 podcast in the world, and somehow maintains that viewpoint of like I'm not better than anyone.
Well, that's so self control is manly.
Yeah.
So is humility.
Yeah,
So humility is
you would
great.
think humility is not manly, but
It absolutely is. Like egotistical guys, like, oh, I'm better than everybody. Like they're the worst people to be
yeah,
around.
that's just fear.
Yeah.
Like that egoistic thing, like oh, like trying to put yourself above everybody else. That's just fear, and that's
And it's funny.
being
So
afraid is not manly.
bringing it back to our, bringing it back to us, like, and like more relatable stuff. Like somewhere where that exists big time is in construction and blue collar work. I cannot stand it when another contractor looks at somebody else's work. That's, okay. Like there is, like, don't get me wrong. There is times where it's like, oh God, what the hell did they do? But stuff that works and looks good, and like, oh, they did it all wrong because they didn't do it the exact way I would. I'm like, man, it looks good. Like for me, I do a lot. I'm almost entirely self-taught on a lot of things. So I do a lot of construction stuff my own way. But the most important thing is that my client's happy. Whatever I build is safe and looks good. Who cares how I do it? As long as it's safe and the client's happy.
Well, it's not like it's not a standard thing maybe, but like sometimes you just have to deal with whatever you have. Like
Yeah.
you can't spend $200 to fix something. Sometimes you find like a cheaper way, and it
That's
might not look good.
what I'm trying to do for a lot of my clients right now. Like things are pretty tight and
Like
tough
this
for
will
people.
work. Just let's do this instead of trying to do it the best, perfect way and the prettiest way. Sometimes that's not what you do. And I wanted to read this thing. Oh, you have coffee. He who wants a rose must respect a thorn.
But yeah, the other thing, being afraid isn't manly. It's like, yeah,
Well, I kind of thought like it's okay to be afraid,
but still do it.
yes, that's the thing. It's manly to still be afraid, but you have to do it. That's the difference, probably.
So see, this is gonna be good. We have sons. They can watch this. They don't
It's
have
gonna be the best.
when they don't have to get lost on the internet and start coming across. Like I keep crapping on Andrew Tate because it's the one that everyone's focused on right now. But there's tons of guys like him that are just insane. And it's not even like, oh, the he's a misogynist or this and that. It's just like, no, he's telling people stuff that's just fundamentally false about, like, especially the stuff with like with monogamy, like his hatred on monogamy. I was like, I don't want to get into that. Everybody and their
some
mother's
cultures
talking
are-
about that. So
Yeah, it depends on some cultures, like Muslim cultures. I guess, but there's always like bad things in everything. There's some people who take advantage of that, and some people might be, like, say I was thinking a lot about that in World War II, how many men died? Like, not every woman was able to have a husband. Like, there needed to be more men, and it's not about marrying the other woman, marrying 7 women, but there needed to be some kind of a manly responsibility over several women.
I think the
Did he
camera
help?
just dropped.
What do you mean it's dropped?
Didn't you hear that crack?
I don't think it was the camera.
Oh,
I think it was that.
Oh.
Like some men needed to take care of more women, but financially, it's not about sex. It's not about your desires all for more women.
Yeah, that's a different cultural thing than what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. But I get what you're saying. Like I had a Muslim friend that he like he would be super cool to have on because he helped educate me on a lot of things about culture in the East and Islam. But he said like if you're like in those cultures where you have more than one wife, it's like you need to be able to financially provide
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
So he said like when I don't know. So this is him saying this. This isn't me saying this. So he said when they come to Western countries with government assistance and stuff like that, and they're all like he's like they're doing it wrong. He's like
Yeah.
the man is supposed to provide for them, not the government.
Exactly. They're not doing it based on their cultural beliefs,
Yeah.
their traditions. They're doing it on how do we manipulate the system,
Yeah.
which we love. But it's a different. It's manipulating people in a different way.
Yeah.
You know.
Making sure we don't get shut down or raided. It's like no, we love this system. Our podcast isn't about getting away from this system at all.
No. It upgrade your mind.
Yeah. Don't become self-sufficient.
There's a video circulating on YouTube that says. I needed to watch it. It says how the government or someone is saying how having chickens or having your own eggs is bad for you, bad for the environment.
Did I think I saved it because I wanted to mention it on the podcast. I don't know if I sent it to you yet. Did I send you what comes up when you Google off-grid?
Yes.
Where is it? Because I want to read it. Yeah, so
It made me super upset.
the first thing that comes up when you Google off-grid is the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It goes into what off-grid is, like the actual definition, but then when it gives an example,
Yeah.
instead of giving an example, it says when folks move to off-grid rural homes, they often end up burning a lot of fossil fuels and spending a lot of money driving to and from town in an insufficient farm truck.
What definitions?
That's not like yeah.
What definition includes? Oh, these guys will drive a
Yeah.
ton, and they will spend a lot of.
It gives
a
the
lot of energy.
definition about being like off water and electrical grids, but then without like just immediately propaganda.
Yeah.
Of Merriam-Webster or the dictionary.
It just promotes one view of what it could be. Just the same thing as they'll change the definition of homeschooling soon.
Mm-hmm.
Like we will see it at some point.
And another episode we have to do, full episode, probably even several, is the back and forth trading of people that work for news companies and governments, like all and stuff like this, like Merriam-Webster, like how I guess I don't know how careful we're gonna be. Do we care?
I don't care.
Because I want to talk about how the FDA and the top pharmaceutical companies just trade executives back and forth, just like the CIA does with CNN. And like it's verifiable information, and everyone's just like whatever.
Even if it's not verified, why wouldn't they? If you think about it, like it's top organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Like why wouldn't they? That's what they would do.
I like your approach. Like whenever I'm talking about all this crazy conspiracy stuff, you're always like, yeah, why wouldn't they do that? It makes sense to take.
If I was evil, that's what I would do. Like I don't need to.
Like, why are you surprised by their clearly smart tactics?
Again, yeah, it's smart, but it's not wise.
No, it's evil.
It's not. It's evil.
So what you said is evil.
That's what it is. And again, if I put myself in those shoes
Yeah.
of evil, that's what I would do. You control the top organizations. You want to be involved in some ways in top organizations.
Yeah.
You see that.
We have to do a whole episode on cottonseed oil and the corruption and the trading of executives there, and
I was thinking of doing podcasts where we review like an
Actual
individual
company.
that's very focused on something, like the Carnivore MD.
Yeah.
Like we'll take some notes on his stuff and we'll review, and we'll probably go into like rabbit holes, like all kinds of things like that. But we'll review a person because there's a lot of people that post just about one topic, like he does, and like other people who do conspiracies of like other sorts. I don't know, UFOs, aliens.
weather balloon or spy balloons.
Spy balloons. What
So
happened to
let's
that?
keep our let's make things topical now. Talk about these stupid balloons.
I don't like what happened to the balloons. Like they shut one down in Yukon or something. No,
So
I don't.
so these balloons apparently it's something that's been going on for a long time. Apparently everybody uses like from governments to private like people just use these balloons, and
Like a
because
drone. What was it? I didn't even look
so
into it at all.
they're just I remember like so from Metal Gear they mentioned the Fulton balloon recovery system. So it's like I said, a lot of governments, even private corporations, they use these balloons that are full of probably helium or some kind of gas that's lighter than air, and they just carry satellites, material, stuff like that for sometimes surveillance, sometimes what checking the weather. Um, but yeah, so this is something that's been a thing since like I think like the 80s or 90s. But because we're hyper focused on certain things, this one in our airspace, or I think it's been a couple now, it's just got everybody focused on balloons. And now apparently some of the
That's
balloons
exactly
are
what I thought it was gonna be.
some of these balloons that are being shot down now are even like privately owned by American or Canadian companies. But because everybody's hypersensitive to it now, when like yeah, things are pretty scary right now when it comes to stuff like that. Like why are Chinese balloons flying over and stuff like that? But like everything, it's getting
I think something gave me this thought like these balloons were just like there's something real happening in the world, and they're
exactly
like, ooh, look at these balloons.
exactly.
Let's make all the news about those balloons
that's
and like
every
the Chinese, Russian, or whatever.
every time something like this
They
happens.
just keep changing the subject.
Exactly.
On the people's focus on where it
And
should be.
it's so overdone now that everybody gets it now. We all get it. Like when the news just keeps going on and on about one stupid thing, whether it's something like the balloons, which could you be argued that it's not that stupid, it's actually pretty serious. But like that guy, I never heard of Sam Smith before, ever. And then the Grammys happened, and then I just had every corner of my life bombarded with this. Like, I don't want to swear, but this is nonsense.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, lucky. You're so lucky. So as a Christian, I'm getting sick and tired of other Christians every year, the Grammys or some award show. They're like, oh, look at this clear occultic symbolism. They're basically worshiping Satan. It's like, yeah, that's what they do every year. Why are you acting surprised? Like,
Didn't Alex Jones talk about this?
yeah, like a couple years ago, the whole Marina Abramovich thing, like the spirit cooking and blood and all that stuff. I'm like, why are we still acting surprised? Like, this is what they do. Like,
see, you're on the same page as me. Like, there are people out there who do these things.
and it's driving me nuts. Like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I don't care. I want to ruck march. I want to garden. I want to raise chickens.
That's where I am.
I don't want to
Building
hear about
communities,
this. Like, so it's like every year there's a new celebrity that like I don't know. They sell their soul to Satan and they do this crazy thing at the Grammys or some award show and everyone just talks about them. They blow up. They get a bunch of money and they fade into obscurity and disappear.
Yeah.
It's like why are we helping this? And it's like everybody, a lot of people do it, but particularly like my own community, like Christians are just. I'm like, seriously, guys. Like this, that this is the thing, and like a lot of them. Then this is gonna. I might lose you and other people here, but some of the bugs me as a Christian is the Christians that will watch it and then don't see anything wrong with it.
Oh,
I'm
those
like,
are like special characters.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm like, what? Because I'm like, it doesn't. You don't even have to be religious to see. Hey, these people are covering themselves with blood and pretending to eat people. That's weird.
I think those Christians are very much like their motto is they take the Jesus is saying like turn the other cheek.
And
like,
yeah, and they
it's
do it
super
wrong.
literally, and they just follow that like that.
Yeah.
Just whatever happens, just allow to be slapped again and again and again. Nothing. There's
Even though they're completely taking out the entire cultural and maybe we can get into this another time about how like because not just with Christianity but every religion. My Muslim friend told me about this is like depending on where the religion like which culture or country it's in, they'll change it to fit their culture and their time. Like the Bible was written like that over 1,000 years ago. The Quran, same thing, and like they'll change it based on their time and their location.
Aren't there like right now even like many versions of like different churches they rewrote their Bible?
And that's
That's what I heard.
crazy. Because
Like especially
it's
some
very
churches.
clear
Yeah,
that you're not supposed to do that.
yeah. There's some churches that are very like focused on promoting the LGBTQ
Yeah.
whatever. They like
And
maybe it's something I read, but they really changed their Bible to
Yeah.
include those.
there's issues like that, but also what drives me nuts about Western Christians, right? So Western Christians will focus on what the CCP did, or Chinese Communist Party, yeah, the CCP did with the Bibles in China. They'll focus on that and then ignore what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, we're doing that here too.
Yeah.
They'll go on about the CCP changing a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, it's happening here right
A lot
under your
of
nose.
hypocrisy going on, eh?
Oh yeah, well, you're part of I guess not a community, but like, what would you call? Because you've talked to me about like losing your position as like a meditation. What is it called? What is it called? Like teacher? Because you wouldn't go with certain things.
Well, it's not that I was losing my position. It's just that the way it was viewed was like, oh wow, you're trying to do different things. You're not using our terminology, so like you must be the devil,
Yeah, and
the
Christians.
yogic devil. I don't know.
Christians are like that. Yogis, like every community has that.
Yeah. Did we introduce ourselves properly?
I think I said. I don't even think you said your name. I said my name. Like I'm Jordan. That's it.
Well, I'm Vitali.
Yeah.
Is that how we end the podcast? My name
Yeah.
is Vitali.
So I'm Jordan. I have another, I guess, a YouTube channel, Off Grid Your Life, where I document my fitness journey, my off grid journey. This is our podcast where we document our journey to creating jobs, opportunities, communities, with an off grid mindset. And I think we I don't know if you want to get into it again. We covered it in episode 1 about what off grid means to us. It doesn't necessarily mean selling all your stuff and moving to the woods.
No, it's just doing things differently in whatever stage that you're in right now, trying to live a better life
Yeah.
and whatever changes that you need to make.
Living a better life, being the best version of you, getting your life on track, being more self-sufficient, whatever that means for you.
And that's why off-grid your mind, because it starts from
Yeah.
thinking differently, viewing yourself differently, and then taking the actions that you need.
Mm.